Hey, Curtis here. Today we're going to be talking about my initial tier list for Samurai Shodown. This is accumulating just from me going into practice mode, labbing a couple characters, playing online all yesterday, and watching different tournament videos in the weeks and months coming up to this game to see what character seems good, who seems not as good. So without further ado, let's jump into it. Coming in at 16, we have our new protagonist, Yoshimaru. Yoshimaru has some interesting mechanics in which they introduce into the game. However, just overall, everything just seems to be punished very heavily. From all of his airborne attacks, which nearly all you have to do is just stand block and then punish afterwards, or if he does his projectile, you dash and you get a full punish. There's a plethora of just options of dealing with him that just don't make up for what he does. Really only his crouching B seems to be his only good move in the kind of the neutral game. Everything else just seems slow or lacking range, and for these reasons I consider him the worst. I hope that he improves, and I plan on playing him a lot more, but right now he's just bottom tier. Coming in at 15, we have another newcomer of Shiki. Shiki has kind of different problems compared to Yoshimaru, in which she does have some gimmicks. She has some good teleports, her running C hits low, but once you start understanding those gimmicks and start understanding when she does her flips in the air, which is very slow, you can start anti-airing and countering her very strongly. She lacks a lot of range with her basic normals, so she can be zoned fairly easy. And when she seems to actually get in there, her damage doesn't seem all that great. And so, kind of a lack of kind of the fundamentals of what I consider to be needed in Samurai Shodown. She's lacking that regard, and once you get over her gimmicks, the risk-reward payoff just isn't there, which puts her at 15. Coming in at 14, we have Knuckle, an old favorite and classic character to have in a Samurai Shodown game. She doesn't have any glaring weaknesses, but she also doesn't have any super strengths. Her biggest thing is playing with the bird, in which you can jump onto and unlock a multitude of different moves, but she's lacking a lot of range in most of the setups, and just doesn't have kind of the damage output overall. Getting in options, she can mainly just throw her bird out, which is a good little projectile poke, but everything else she's kind of risking of getting in. So a zoning character, someone that has a little bit more range, is going to be able to kind of lock her out fairly effectively, and which is why I have Nakaruru at 14. Another classic character is the old protagonist of Mamamoo, coming in at 13. Again, he doesn't have any glaring weaknesses. He's an all-rounder, and he does have some very damaging attacks, like his neutral C as well as his Dragon Punch does tons and tons of damage. However, kind of in a neutral game, his pokes are a little bit weaker. His neutral B has decent range, but will be outranged by a lot of the cast, and he seems to have to work for kind of very little damage. So he's going to get in just little damage here, there, here, and there. But an effective zoner or someone that has a little bit more range is going to keep him out, and if he does pull off his DP or one of his other special moves, he's going to be very vulnerable to kind of punishment. So because he doesn't really excel in any aggressive pressure strategies, and while he is good with an anti-air, it's not enough to kind of push him into B or A tier from here on out. So we have Harumaru coming in at 13. Next, we have another newcomer. We have Wu Reijuing, in which she seems to have a lot of potential. So again, this might be a character of just we haven't seen enough, but of my experience of looking at her online, she does have some really good projectile tools coming at many different angles, and she also can throw down a spot on the floor which kind of acts as a trap. However, even jumping on that spot, you're able to crouch block all of that. And so she does have a lot of good damage potential with that. There's already been found of 100% combos with her in the corner, but for her to get an opponent in the corner, I feel is very minimal. In which she's basically just going to backwalk herself into a corner, and then she's going to hope to get a back throw to put your opponent in the corner, but I don't see that possibility happening a whole lot. Other than that, her shield is okay with her normals. Crouching C seems to be kind of the only reliable low, kind of long range. Everything else she's going to struggle a little bit of getting into. So with her, unless you have perfect zoning, you're going to get little chips here and there, but someone that is going to be looking at those chips that can just walk forward and just defend at the right time for those projectiles, she's just going to give your opponent boosted rage, which is going to increase their damage. So that's why I have her slotted at number 12. Coming in at number 11, we have Hattori Hanzo, starting our B tier. Hattori Hanzo finally is a character that has multiple different mix-up options of entry. He has some teleports, he has a command throw, he has air throws, and a decent projectile. So he has a wide variety of moves of trying to get in, to keep pressure on, and to keep your opponent guessing. And then looking at his normals, he only really has neutral C, which is going to have long range. Everything else is going to be pretty close. But as aforementioned, he has a lot of different options of just to teleport on top of you or to use his fireball to dash in to follow it up. So he has ways of approaching. And with that, even if he loses his weapon with a disarm, he can still have access to his command throw. His kick game is not too bad to just keep on that pressure. And he's not losing a lot of that range aspect. So Hattori Hanzo coming in at number 11, a good solid pick. Coming in at number 10, we have Jubei. Jubei is just a very basic character, really good for beginners to learn about footsie-based combat, and he's an excellent defensive character as well to learn about that. His neutral B, his crouching B, his jumping B, all kind of help him get locked into this B tier. He has very good range with that neutral B to keep out your opponents and to stop them if they're just going to raw dash in. But what really sets him apart is he has a pretty good fireball that comes out very fast on the ground, but he also has counters in which you can counter an air attack, a mid attack, and a low attack. Being one of the character that can actually counter an air attack, for characters that really like to put on a lot of air pressure, Jubei is going to be a very good anti-air option because he won't be trading. He's just going to straight up counter it and do tons of damage. On the offensive front, he has some problems. Yes, he has a projectile to move in a little bit, and then he stands out of range for any whiff punishments. But overall, his game plan is going to be a little bit more defensive, and because he doesn't have the greatest options to open up, we're going to put him at B tier. Coming in at number 9, we have Yoshitaro, another favorite in which he has a very unique playstyle in which he wants to use all of his special moves to unlock the 7th sword, which is an extremely strong ability. So early game, he's actually very scary to fight against, but at mid game, when he's used, 3 or 4 of his special moves, he becomes much more predictable. And fighting against a Yoshi player, you're going to be able to identify what moves he's waiting to use. And then you're able to either block it to make sure that he never gets to the final sword, or he's going to know that, and the damage output is just a little bit less. This is just a very classic example of just all of his moves do just a little bit less compared to the other casts, but as soon as he gets to that final sword, he's going to do tons and tons of damage. And so fighting against him, as long as you know that overall game plan of not enabling him to get to that final sword, you should have a decent effort of blocking it out with all the rest of his supers. He does have a very good jumping C, as well as a neutral C, which covers a lot of area on the screen, as well as does a lot of just decent chip damage, which can catch opponents off guard. Yoshi is definitely one that you're going to have to practice a little bit to see the openings, especially of all the different super moves, and he is fun to play. However, because of his lower damage scaling overall until he gets to that to the final sword, that's why he's locked in at B tier at number 9. Coming in at number 8, we have another very classic character of Shiro. Shiro is a very good zoning character. He has an excellent standing B, a crouching A, jumping B is also very good kind of just zoning techniques. Even doing jumping back B is very strong as an anti-air option or just catching opponents off guard. But along with that, he has a dashing mix-up in which his dashing B is an overhead while his dashing D is a low, in which you can get your opponent off of there. His dashing B also is a mini jump move, so characters that have ground projectiles or lace kind of traps on the ground like Wu, he will actually jump over those to inflict damage. So that's something to keep aware of with his game plan of just kind of keep away in pokes. The very downside of kind of what keeps Shiro in B tier is if he's ever disarmed, he doesn't have a lot of options. Yes, he still has access to his tsunami projectile, but it's not the greatest, especially because he doesn't really want to use that to get in very much. And he just really needs to get back his Naginata to really do anything in the game. His kick game is very poor, very short ranged, and so if you're fighting against Shiro, look to try to disarm him as soon as possible and then camp on his weapon, or just try to not get zoned out completely for him. But because of kind of overall his zoning possibilities and then the negative of being disarmed is heavily against him, Shiro comes in at 8. Starting our A tier, we have coming in at number 7 is Tam Tam. Tam Tam is an extremely lanky character, which means that his range output is very good. Speaking about his special moves, he has a Rekka projectile, meaning he can throw out 1, 2, or 3 projectiles, either lows or more high. The high variation is going to go above most of the casts in the neutral game, but it's going to prevent you from trying to jump over the lows, and so it's going to be a guessing game even at full range. Tam Tam also has a spitting fireball projectile, which controls a vertical area of the map, in which then he also controls a lot of space that way. So approaching at a Tam Tam can be very difficult. And once you even get a little bit close, Tam Tam has excellent normals. Even from his neutral A, neutral B, all have very good range and come out very fast to control the space in front of him. And even on, if he wants to do pressure, he can throw projectiles, and he also has an instant overhead with jumping C. So as soon as you leave the ground, you mash that C, and that counts as an overhead, which deals massive damage like any other heavy attack in the game. Along with that, if Tam Tam ever gets disarmed, he still has a lot of options. His kicks still go a lot of distance, and he still has access to his spinning kicks, which can do just, again, awesome damage and awesome pressure. Overall, Tam Tam is a very good character to have, and a classic game plan to do is to try to disarm your opponent and then just kind of camp on that and use your range as your advantage of just peeling away at your opponent. So with all that, that's why Tam Tam sits at the 7th spot. Coming in at number 6, we have a classic villain of Genjuro. Genjuro basically has all the tools you need in this game. He has a very powerful Rekka, which can also be used as a cross-up. He has a card projectile, which can count as a second hit even on block. So it's a really good pressure tool to try to get in. And he's going to need that because a lot of his normals are a little bit short range. While his normals have a little bit more range compared to Samurai Shodown 5 Special, he still needs ways to get in. He also has a DP that comes out extremely fast, so he is able to control space in front of him, control space above him, and which makes him a very strong and fun character to use. Just be aware that whenever you try the cross-up Rekkas, that those are heavily punishable, and so there is a good trade-off between risk and reward, but even played as a pressure character to get in, get your opponent to even look for disarms, and then punish throughout, Genjuro is going to put a lot of pressure on your opponent. Overall though, his damage is a little less than I would like, and his normals have a little less range than I would like as well, but he's still a very formidable player and character to use in this version. So coming in number 6 spot, Genjuro. Coming in at number 5, we have another new character. We have Darlie Dagger. Darlie Dagger just basically has all the fun tools to use, and she's probably the best bruiser in the entire game. And by that mean is she has so many good offensive tools to keep up the pressure and just to dish out the damage that you have to look out. From her standing B to her crouching C's to her dashing C's that comes out as a low. She also has a hammer that she can charge up to be completely invulnerable, so on knockdown you can start charging that up for kind of a mix-up if you're going to unleash it as a melee attack, or if you're going to hold on to it a little bit more and just have a devastating attack throughout. But what's really good about her, which makes her, in my opinion, the best bruiser in the game, is even after she gets disarmed, she can just continue on and still has access to armor moves and just play Rock'em Sock'em Robot. So if you're looking at someone who not spams buttons, but uses offense smartly and effectively, go to Darlie. She also has an extremely fast command grab that just it makes her arsenal even that much more powerful. Really like her design. Give her a try. Coming in at number 5, Darlie. The last character in our tier A is going to be probably the most controversial, in which Charlotte we're putting here. Most people, I think, consider her more of an S character, but A tier I think is kind of where she's at. I don't think she breaks top 3 for me. Charlotte is an extremely effective poke character, in which her A neutral and crouching A are very effective fast pokes, as well as neutral B and crouching B all control that space in front of her extremely effectively. She has a very good DP as long as you time it correctly. But what really makes her stand out is her jumps. So her jumping C is extremely strong, but what makes it so strong is while most of the other characters jump extremely high, almost float, Charlotte almost does a short hop. So she has very strong aggression as you move forward in the air, in which she's able to keep it up. But that doesn't stop her. Her special move, she has a projectile which she can even charge, in which you hold it. So if your opponent sees you do projectile and jumps, she can hold it a little bit more and unleash it from kind of mid full screen. She also has kind of a 100-hand slap with multiple slashes. And then finally she has just a long range poke that hits about 3/4 of the screen away. Overall though, why I kind of have her at A tier is I feel she lacks kind of the versatility as kind of the top tier characters. While her damage and her game plan is pretty straightforward, she's a very good character for beginners to use, as you're going to get really good payoffs and start learning of when to take turns in this game. So coming in at number 4, Charlotte. Starting our S tier, we have in our number 3 spot, Earthquake. Earthquake is just an immovable wall, which unfortunately for your opponent, can also move. He just takes up so much space on the screen. His weapon also has extremely long range, extremely long damage that on whiff punishes, and even on if he gets staggered on block. If he does his rolling ball, he just takes up so much area of the screen that it's really hard to effectively punish. So it forces your opponent, even on stagger, to continue guarding against Earthquake. And Earthquake was then going to just slowly walk forward and slowly move you in the corner, in which then Earthquake is going to put you in his box, and you probably will not leave that corner for the rest of the match. And in combination with his rolling ball, his very good standing C's, his neutral B's, he's just going to take you up and eat you up. So even though he may have the quote-unquote ugliest design in the game as a character, he's an extremely strong and effective powerhouse that definitely needs to see more play. Number 3, Earthquake. Coming in at number 2, we have our American Ninja, Galford. Galford is just wow. He has so many options to get in on you, to keep away. The use of Poppy, his kunai, his teleports, he just is always going to keep you guessing. And what's beautiful about him is while each of these options can be blocked and punished, it's the variety of how is he going to approach me. Is he going to use Poppy to drop from above and then he's going to dash in to try to get a low? Is he going to throw Poppy straight at me and set up a big combo? Or is he just going to teleport in front or even behind me? Or even is he just going to keep me away with kunai options or jump back and throw Poppy as another area control? The vast variety of moves that Galford has makes up for his lack of range with his standard normals. He's going to be constantly putting you on edge, having you look for something, and you guys will be moving around the map a lot versus Galford, and when Galford hits you, it's gonna hurt a lot. And because a lot of times it's Poppy that starts that momentum, it's safe pressure to do. The kunai is also comes out extremely fast, safe pressure that he can even use to follow up dash in, follow up teleport. You just gotta watch out for him. His damage is just too good for all the options that you have. This is someone you're definitely gonna have to lab to see exactly all the different varieties that Galford has. Because if you fight an opponent that only uses 1 or even 2 of his options, you'll quickly learn and adapt. You have to use all the options available to him to really just start dominating your opponents. So coming in at number 2, Galford. And to finish up the S tier, as my number 1 ranked character, Yukio. Yukio just has the good combination of speed and power. Not only does he have very good normals in which he can kind of dash forward and cover a lot of ground while dishing out tons and tons of damage, he has a dashing cross up if he stays on the floor, or he can just sit right in front of you and try to deal damage with a sweep. He has an instant overhead special, which is also a very good anti-air move, which can also reflect projectiles. Yukio has a lot of options to do just tons and tons of damage, control space, and what's really unique about him is because he has that balance between speed and power, that this character can sit motionless and still have intimidation factor versus your opponent, and force you to do something. And he just controls so much space with that range and speed that he's just a force to reckon with. You have to have very strong decision-making skills and reactionary skills to play Yukio, but if you have those abilities, you are going to get tons and tons of wins versus Yukio. Coming in at number 1. So that's my initial thoughts and tier list for kind of the original cast in Samurai Shodown. Really, tier lists are just kind of fun. The goal is just to find a character that you like to play and play that character. Like, even though I have Yoshimaru kind of as a D tier character, I want to play him more. I still like his design and I want to make him work, basically. Even though my main is Shiro, so sticking at that B tier, I still think he's very viable. Anyone is, I think, through C tier, anyone is viable. But until we learn a little bit more about Shiki and Yoshimaru, those are kind of unplayable characters, I feel, at this time. That doesn't mean to stop trying and learn a little bit more. Like, I expect that we're going to see some movement between Wu once we kind of figure out more actions from her. And we might see some more swaps here and there in the top tier. But I mean, S and A tier I think are very strong, and then everyone else here. So guys, if you liked what you saw today, thanks. There should be more Samurai Shodown videos coming out, and improved tier lists and everything else. If you liked what you saw today, make sure you hit the follow button, and just find a character you like, get to practicing, and then hope to see you at some tournaments. Take care, guys.